Yes, hello friends, good evening. Am I audible? Please somebody ping me. Am I audible? Yes, guys. Please somebody ping me so that I can start the session. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. Let's crack UPSC CSE English. Now, before I start the session, let me introduce myself for the people who are new on the platform or who are attending my session for the first time. My name is Alok Ojha. I have done my engineering from Pune. I have been associated with the field of UPSC since past 7 years. I have been through various stages of Civil Services exam. I hold the experience of giving serious SSB twice. I also hold the experience of exams like CAPF Assistant Commandant and Uttar Pradesh PSC. I am involved into the field of teaching since past 5 years and I have mentored more than 15,000 aspirants for UPSC. Today we are going to discuss important freedom movements of India. Now, yes, good evening Srihari. Yes, Arpita, hello, good evening. Now, there might be a question in the mind of an aspirant why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. So here are the ample of reasons why one should prefer Unacademy as a platform for online learning. First of all, you'll have daily life classes on the Unacademy platform. Unacademy offers you assimilation of top and dynamic educators of India on a single platform. You can directly interact with the educators. You can clear all sorts of doubts with the educators. Second most important aspect, Unacademy helps to build up your competence by going through live tests and quizzes. All the courses on Unacademy platform are highly structured in nature and there is a proper timetable through which the courses are being conducted. Like the entire syllabus is completed in a very comprehensive manner and within a very stipulated time frame. Like there is a proper focus on history, geography, polity, economics, science and technology, current affairs, answer writing practices, essay writing practice and so on. Apart from that, the courses, there is unlimited access to the courses on Unacademy platform. Here are the few top and dynamic educators of India from whom you are going to learn through. So, there is also something called as iconic subscription. Now, what is majorly iconic subscription all about? During the initial days, the preparation is completely haphazard. And an aspirant is majorly confused about what should I read, where should I read from, what are the sources that I need to prefer for current affairs, then what is the importance of answer writing, what is the technique of answer writing. So there would be a mentor who would be guiding you throughout your journey for civil services preparation. So if you choose me as your mentor, please use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Now, Unacademy has also come up with Unacademy Combat. Now, what is majorly Unacademy Combat all about? It is the most competitive gamified UPSC CSE battle, 60 minutes, 60 questions, which will be divided into 13 sections. And there would be a relative scoring so that an aspirant can gauge his competitiveness. So please enroll for the Unacademy Combat, which will be held on 14th of Feb at 11 AM. So please use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Rank 1 to 10 would be getting GS Plus subscription for 1 month completely free of cost. These have been the special classes conducted by me previously. So please do subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS. I repeat the code AKOUS. Yes guys, now let's get started with Swadeshi Movement. Yes Seema, good evening. Soha, good evening. Now pay attention guys properly. Now before I speak about the Swadeshi Movement, I would like to speak about a bit of background about the national movement. Okay guys, so that we can understand that how British were exploitative in character towards the towards our country. Now pay attention properly. Each and every section of the Indian society was completely frustrated and thwarted by the rule of the English East India Company in India. Now, English East India Company, when it came to India, it came for the purpose of trading. But with the passage of time, it started dictating terms and conditions to the people of India. I'll give you a few examples. Like, when Britishers came in India, they forced our peasants to go for a commercialized agriculture. Now, what is commercialized agriculture? I'll give you an example. There are two types of agriculture, subsistence and commercialized agriculture. Suppose I am a peasant and I practice subsistence agriculture, I will produce only those crops which are useful for sustaining my livelihood. But in commercialized agriculture, I will produce those crops which are high in demand in the national as well as international market, so that I can accrue huge amounts of profit. Now, when Britishers came in India, they forced our peasants to cultivate commercial crop. I'll give you a very small example. One of the commercial crop is cotton. Okay. Now, suppose Britishers say that each and every peasant needs to cultivate cotton. Okay. Now, before the cotton is ready for the harvest, they are going to give us rupees 5. I'm giving an example so that you can easily understand this. They will give us rupees 5. Okay. Now, our peasant has accepted this. But when the crop is ready for the harvest, Britishers are telling us that if you have to sell this cotton at rupees 1, then sell. Otherwise, we are not going to buy it. Now, our peasants are forced to sell that cotton at rupees 1. Now, this cotton will go to Manchester or Liverpool. From there, it will go to London, where it is converted into manufactured textile. And again, it will come back to India. Now, in India, it has been sold at rupees 10. At what price was the raw material purchased? It was purchased at petty rupees of 1 and it is now sold at rupees 10. Can you imagine? In a very methodological manner, in a very systematic manner, India's resources are being drained out of India. So, this theory is called as drain of wealth. And this theory was highlighted for the first time by Dadabhai Naoroji in his book, that is Poverty and Un-British Rule in India. So this was the peasant section which was completely thwarted by the rule of Britishers. There was another section, that is tribal section. Britishers always followed the policy of interference. I'll give you a very small example. Like, there is a tribe called as Munda tribe in the Chota Nagpur Plateau. Now the Munda tribe basically practice Khund Katidar system. That means original clearer of forest. These forests are sacred groves for us, and we have the authority, we have the rights over the produce of the forest. Such was the belief of Mundas. But Britishers violated their forest rights, and Mundas revolted against the Britishers. This is also referred as Sardari Ladai, and Birsa Munda was a leader of Munda revolt. So what does this simply exemplify? This simply exemplifies one thing. Britishers continuously followed the policy of interference. Okay, moving further. Now pay attention properly. So peasant section was thwarted by the Britishers. Then the tribal section was thwarted by the Britishers. Initially Britishers were not at all interested in educating the Indians. But later on they believed that to improve the effectiveness and to improve the administrative efficiency, we need to induce more number of Indians in the administrative setup. And that is why it is necessary to educate the Indians. Because initially the civil servants were trained at Hailbury College in London. And they were brought in India to serve at different administrative posts. And they were highly unaware about the culture of India, about the tradition of India, about the setup of the local self-government bodies in India. So now they decided to educate Indians so that they can induce these Indians in the administration. And secondly, the pensions, perks, privileges, salaries, allowances of the Britishers were quite high. And Indians would be working at very low wages. That is why they decided to educate the Indians. So there were amalgamation of factors which led to revolt of 1857. which is regarded as first war of independence by many historians and nationalists as well. After that, in 1885, there was formation of Indian National Congress, and Indian National Congress was formed at a place called as Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit College, which is at Bombay. The first session of Indian National Congress was presided by Vomesh Chandra Banerjee, and it was attended by 72 delegates. The second session of Indian National Congress was presided by Grand Old Man of India, that is Dadabhai Nauroji. And the second section of Indian National Congress was held at Calcutta. It was attended by approximately around 436 delegates. And in this second session, it was decided that every year we are going to meet at a particular place in India, and we are going to discuss the issues of national importance. Third session was presided by the first minority president, that is Badruddin Tayyabji. Now, right from the start itself, Congress was divided on the basis of ideology, and there were two ideological perspectives living within the Congress. First was moderates and the other were extremists. Now, moderates believed in steady progress. They believed in providential mission theory. And what is providential mission theory? If we remain loyal to the Britishers, some or the other day, Britishers are going to repay us for our loyalty. First thing, they believe that we do not want independence all of a sudden. We want independence in a gradual, stage by stage manner. Okay, and they believed in prayer, protest and petition. They wanted the transfer of power in a very peaceful and bloodless manner. And exactly on the other side, opposite were extremists. They believed that Britishers are highly unworthy to claim Indian loyalty. Second major aspect, they believed that if independence could have been gained by staying within the constitutional limits, there couldn't have been revolutions like American and French revolutions in the world. So to gain independence, we need to go beyond the constitutional limits. Now comes up the rule of Lord Curzon, who was a Viceroy of India. Now, Lord Curzon decided to partition the Bengal in 1905. Now, on what pretext did he decide to partition the Bengal? He said that Bengal has become too big to be administered by a single viceroy. And that is why Britishers are deciding to divide the Bengal into two parts, West Bengal and East Bengal. Now, this was the explicit intention that they have shown. But what was the actual hidden agenda? Or what was the actual implicit intention behind that? They wanted to break the cultural fabric and unity of India. Why? Because West Bengal was a Hindu majority province and East Bengal was a Muslim majority province. And now they also tried to fill the ears of certain Muslim sections. How? They said that West Bengal has progressed because there is a Calcutta port. And if the people of East Bengal support the partition of Bengal, we will create a port, which is Chittagong port, which will lead to the economic upliftment of the people in East Bengal. There is an educational upliftment in the West Bengal because of Calcutta University. And what did Britishers say to the people of East Bengal? That we are going to create a Dhaka University, which will lead to their upliftment. So here Britishers are trying to break the unity in India. My friends, right from the start itself, Britishers has always played two games in India. One is divide and rule on the communal lines, and second is carrot and stick. If they have to suppress one particular section of the society, they will automatically uplift the other section of the society. If they have to suppress the moderates, they will uplift the extremists and vice versa. So right from the start itself, Britishers have played two games, divide and rule and carrot and stick policy. So now against this, Congress decided to go for a Swadeshi movement. And the call for Swadeshi movement was given in 1905 at Banaras session of Indian National Congress. Now what is Swadeshi? Swadeshi basically means goods, we are going to use the goods which are produced in our own country. That is using indigenous goods. And one more thing guys, Swadeshi and boycott both are not different. Although the terminologies are different, but both are complementary to each other. How? Until and unless we are going to boycott the foreign goods, how come are we going to use the Indian goods? So for promoting Indian goods, for promoting Indian education, for promoting Indian industries, we need to boycott the foreign goods. So both Swadeshi and boycott are complementary to each other. And this idea of Swadeshi, this came up for the first, it is not that it came for the first time in 1905. The idea was also mooted initially by various leaders like Gopal Hari Deshmukh, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Bholanath Chandra of Calcutta. They previously have also spoken about the Swadeshi movement. Now Swadeshi movement had two elements, positive elements and negative element. Although the word is negative element, but it is not altogether negative. Both of them are positive because it is in the benefit of the country. Now what are the positive elements if we go for a Swadeshi movement? First thing, there would be regeneration of indigenous goods. I'll give you a very small example. Just a while back I have told you that Britishers took the raw material from India and they sold the raw material and they sold the manufactured textile in India itself. Okay, now what happened basically, they could have set up capital intensive industries in India itself, but Britishers did not do this so. Now what happened here, now people started preferring Indian handicraft, because suppose the British goods are sold at rupees 10 in India, and if we are getting our own handicraft at rupees 5, so obviously we are going to prefer our own handicrafts. So our people started preferring our own goods, that is our handicrafts. Okay. Now what happened? Britishers were very intelligent in that case. They played a very diplomatic move here. Now Indian handicraft are sold at rupees 5. And now Britishers will sell their good at rupees 3. So what will happen? People will start preferring British goods. In a very systematic manner, in a very methodological manner, our entire handicraft industry was completely paralyzed by the policies that were adopted by the Britishers. And Swadeshi movement was now a chance to revive back our indigenous industries. So regeneration of indigenous goods. Now, as I have told you, Swadeshi and boycott both are complementary to each other. Now, when we are going to boycott these goods, what will happen? There will be more and more demand for the goods that are produced in our own country. And now it is said that a lot many cotton textile goods were being boycotted. So what happened here? There was mushrooming of cotton mills at different places in Bengal and Bombay, Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and so on. So industry, handicraft industry, which was paralyzed previously, was now revived back again. Okay. Now what are the negative elements of the program? Heaps of foreign clothes were brought on the street and they were burned. This is a symbol of a peaceful protest. I repeat, this is a symbol of peaceful protest. There is no violence involved here. Like heaps of foreign clothes are brought on the streets and these clothes were being burned down. Okay. Yes, Sri Hari, I'll be explaining the carrot and stick policy. See, Sri Hari, you have a question, sir. What is carrot and stick policy? Carrot and stick policy basically means, suppose if Britishers have to uplift the moderates, they are going to suppress the extremist. Example, suppose if they have to suppress the extremist, they are going to beat them with the stick. They are going to suppress their movement. And they will bring certain reforms in India, and these reforms will be put forward by the moderates, that is carrot. So this is carrot and stick policy. Okay, now coming back here, guys. So, heaps of foreign clothes were brought on the streets and the clothes were being burned down. There was complete boycott of foreign cloth and sugar. Anyone who was found selling or using foreign sugar or salt was socially boycotted. Brahmins refused, like it is believed that Brahmins refused to perform any ceremony where foreign sugar or salt was used. So in simple words, there was nothing but a sort of a social boycott that was being practiced. And people who were selling or using foreign goods, foreign sugar, foreign salt, they were subjugated to all sorts of humiliation. So this was economic and social boycott. Now let's move into the field of what we say national education. This was a time for revival of national education. School and college students showed exemplary courage and participated in the Swadeshi movement. In fact, an exemplary courage was also shown by women of India, and they also participated in the Swadeshi movement. So school and college students, they participated in the movement. There was boycott of government schools and colleges. Like it is believed that Calcutta University, okay, I'll give you a small example. There was one commission which came in 1854, and that commission was referred as Wood's Dispatch of 1854. And on the recommendation of Wood's Dispatch, 3 universities were created: Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras University. And later on, there was what we say Sadler Commission that came in. And the purpose of Sadler Commission to come in India was to review the working of Calcutta University. Now, Calcutta University was heavily gagged and criticized as Gulam Khana. It was factory for producing slaves. The graduates of Calcutta University at that time were induced into the services, and Britishers were trying to mold these administrators according to their own will. So that is why Calcutta University was being criticized as Gulam Khana, house of manufacturing slaves. So students completely boycotted government schools and colleges. Then students refused to use the paper or the books which were produced of foreign paper. Okay. Yes, Dipen. Good evening. National schools and colleges were being set up. And now comes the role of press here. Media acts as a channel of communication between the government and the governed. The government will come to know about the plight of the people through media, and people will come to know about the policies of the government through media. So press had played a very major role in sensitizing the masses in the entire India. My friends, I'll give you a small example. Although the Swadeshi movement was initially decided that it will be just confined to the region of Bengal, but later on, when the movement became quite successful in the region of Bengal, it was decided that the Swadeshi movement will spread to other parts of the country. And the major role in sensitizing the masses and creating a patriotic zeal among the people was played by the press. Like various songs were being composed by Rabindranath Tagore, Rajnikant Sen, Dwijendra Lal Ray, Mukund Das, Sayyid Abu Ahmad, and so on. Like there were leading newspapers like Bengali, Indian Mirror, Hindu Patriot, Amrit Bazar Patrika. They published in the newspapers against the derogatory move of partition of Bengal. Now, their major purpose was to ferment the Hindu-Muslim unity. At any cost, all the sections of the Indian society should remain united against this move of the Britishers. And now there was one newspaper, Amrit Bazar Patrika. Now Amrit Bazar Patrika circulated a petition. I repeat, Amrit Bazar Patrika circulated a petition in the what we say Eastern Bengal. And here basically, as per this petition, like the people who are opposed to the partition of Bengal should sign this petition. More than 1 lakh people signed the petition against the partition of Bengal. Did you get the points till here, guys? Please let me know. Any query, any question, any sort of doubt, please ask me. Yes, guys. Okay, now let's move further. Vande Mataram became the battle cry for the entire Swadeshi movement. Okay, now listen to me carefully. In 1906, in 1905, the call for Swadeshi movement was given. Okay, now it was initially decided that the Swadeshi movement would just be confined to the region of Bengal. But later on, the movement became so popular that it was decided in 1906 that movement would be spreading to the other parts of Bengal. It would be spreading to the rest of the country as well. And there were many leaders who played a very pioneering role in sensitizing the masses against the partition of Bengal. The streets were full of cries like Vande Mataram. Okay, like Anand Mohan Bose and Surendranath Banerjee electrified the masses through their speeches in the region of Bengal. Swadesh Bandhav Samiti, I repeat, Swadesh Bandhav Samiti of Ashwin Kumar Dutt also played a very major role for sensitizing the masses in the region of Bengal. And now it was decided to spread the movement to the rest part of the country. So now the movement spread from Bengal to Bombay. And in the region of Bombay, Tiger of Bombay played a very major role in sensitizing the masses. Bal Gangadhar Tilakji played a very exemplary role in sensitizing the masses against the partition of Bengal. Now, the movement was not that successful, or the movement did not gain much momentum in United Province. United Province means the present day region of UP and Bihar. And now, one of the extremist leaders, Bal Gangadhar Tilakji, was sent to United Province to sensitize the youth here. Through the speeches of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, the entire youth was sensitized. Bal Gangadhar Tilakji started Shivaji Festival and Ganpati Festival. And these festivals played a very major role for fermenting the unity between the Hindus and Muslims. The platform for Shivaji Festival and Ganpati Festival was used for sensitizing the masses, for building the cultural unity in India. Now, from Bengal, it went to Bombay. From Bombay, the movement reached to the United Province. From United Province, the movement reached to Punjab. And the major role in sensitizing the masses and leading forward the movement here was being played by Sher-e Punjab, whose name was Lala Lajpat Rai. So Lala Lajpat Rai and Ajit Singh, uncle of Bhagat Singh Ji, they played a very major role in sensitizing the masses in the region of Punjab. Okay, from Punjab, it spread to the other parts of Delhi, Rawalpindi, Kangra, that is in Himachal Pradesh, Jammu, Multan, which is in present-day Pakistan. So the movement spread to these regions. And who played the pioneering role here? Sayyid Haider Raja. I repeat, Sayyid Haider Raja. He played a very exemplary role in spreading the movement around Delhi. And finally, the movement reached to the southern part of India. And the most pioneering and important role here was being played by Chidambaram Pillai. So I'll repeat the points again. Initially, the movement was in the region of Bengal. Then it spread to the region of Bombay. Later on, it moved to the region of United Province. From here, it moved to the region of Punjab. From Punjab, it moved to the region of Delhi. And finally, to the southern part of India, where a major role was being played by whom? Chidambaram Pillai. Now, Rabindranath Tagore, he gave a simple concept of self-reliance or Atma Shakti. Until and unless we have the confidence in ourselves, the leaders cannot play a pioneering role. The people should have confidence in themselves to emancipate themselves from the yoke of Britishers. And until and unless each and every person are going to give their own pie in the movement, we cannot expect to get independence from the Britishers. So here Rabindranath Tagore ji specified on, or he laid emphasis on self-reliance or Atma Shakti. Okay. Gujarati speaking districts or the region of Gujarat was not active participant in the Swadeshi movement. And the major reasons here was at this time there was mushrooming of textile mills in this region. 15th August 1906, National Council of Education was created and a fund was raised to set up national education societies in India. And after that, there were many national schools and colleges that were set up in India. Bihar Vidyapeeth, Jamia Millia Islamia at Aligarh, and so on. There was development of indigenous banking, indigenous tannery, indigenous Swadeshi textile mill, soap and chemical factories. So right now there was complete emphasis on goods that are produced in our own country. Okay, I have given there is a small example. Acharya PC Ray's Bengal chemical factory became quite famous at this time. And now we have derived our inspiration from our ancient past. Like Abhindranath Tagore, listen to me. Is it necessary that Britishers are going to rule over us and then we are going to learn about the administration? We had the rulers like Ashoka in the ancient past. We had the rulers like Samudragupta in the ancient past, whose administration was much more sound and better than the British administration. So here we need to derive inspiration from our past rather than thinking that we will get the independence in a gradual stage by stage manner. So each and every leaders like Nandalal Bose, Rabindranath Tagore, Abhindranath Tagore, Jagdish Chandra Bose, Praful Chandra Ray, everyone played a very major role in sensitizing the masses. Okay? And now, as usual, what role did the Britishers play here? Britishers came up heavily on the protesters, like school and college students who actively took part in the agitation. Either they were threatened with the cancellation of scholarship, then affiliations, or sometimes the students were also put behind the bars and beaten up brutally in the lockup. Okay, shouting of Vande Mataram on the public streets were completely banned. Then, press was completely controlled through various newspaper act. I'll give you a small example. Like newspapers were completely gagged. Like there was a position called as press commissioner. Now this person, like who is going to start a newspaper, what would be published, it would be decided by the press commissioner. So in very simple words, there was no liberty given to the press. And if any newspaper was found publishing anything derogatory against the Britishers, the newspaper publication was stopped. So Britishers came heavily on the, what we say, press. Then police assault became very frequent. Either it be women, either it be students, either it be the national leaders. Everyone was put behind the bar. Everyone was being assaulted by the lathi charge. Now rural markets were completely controlled. Now why there was a control over the rural markets? Rural market is a place where people of different villages will gather. And when the people of different villages will gather at a particular place, this would be used as a medium for propagating the propaganda. This would be used as a medium for sensitizing the masses. And that is why Britishers controlled the rural market. Like there were many leaders like Lala Lajpat Rai ji. Now what happened here? Pay attention properly. Before I tell you the entire incident, listen to me very carefully. In 1906, I'll tell you a group of incidents that took place by now. In 1906, what happened here? Now Britishers thought that for now we have to use the carrot and stick policy here. And majorly the extremist leader are active participant in the movement. Now the time has come that we are going to support the moderate leaders in the form of reforms, and then we are going to suppress the extremist leader. In 1906, a session was held at Calcutta, and the session was presided by Grand Old Man of India, Dada Bhai Navroji. Here, extremists were successful in passing 4 Calcutta resolutions, that is Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott and National Education. I repeat, Swaraj, Swadeshi, Boycott and National Education. In 1905, initially it was decided that session is going to be held at Bombay. But Bombay was the head, like Bombay was a place where Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji had a lot of sway. So later on, the venue was cancelled and shifted to Surat. Now, extremists wanted Bal Gangadhar Tilak or Lala Lajpat Rai to become the president at Surat of Indian National Congress. But the moderates wanted somebody else to become the president. Now, in 1907, there were a lot of ideological differences between the moderates and the extremists. And the differences became so deep that moderates felt that working with extremists is like entering into the dangerous waters. And extremists felt about the moderates that moderates are a drag on the movement. And now, because of the ideological differences, there was break in the Indian National Congress in 1907. And this was seen as an opportunity by the Britishers to hurt the cultural fabric of India. And now, the Congress was split in 1907 session of Surat. This was seen as an opportunity to support the moderates and to suppress the extremists. Now, when the extremists were running the movement throughout the nation, here British moderate section was negotiating with the Britishers for further reforms. Now, this resulted in Morley-Minto reforms of 1909, and here Britishers came up heavily on the extremist section. Like Lala Lajpat Rai ji, he went to England. Bipin Chandra Pal and Aurobindo Ghosh, they retired from the active politics. Then Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he was sent to Mandalay jail for 6 years. Okay. Now, meanwhile, there was also one league which was formed in 1906, All India Muslim League. Now, All India Muslim League was being formed by Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka and Aga Khan. Now, Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka and Aga Khan, initially, certain section of Muslim League supported the partition of Bengal. Why? Because as I have talked about this, Britishers had told the section that if you support the partition of Bengal, we are going to create a Chittagong port. We are going to establish a new university called as Dhaka University. Okay. So certain section, very little section of the Muslim League did not support the Swadeshi movement. But there were leaders like Barrister Abdul Rasool, Liaquat Hussain, Ghaznavi, Maulana Azad. They participated actively in Swadeshi movement and they supported the cause of the nation against the partition of Bengal. Okay. Now, Zamindars also participated in the Swadeshi movement. Now, if the Swadeshi movement was so successful, so why? Yes, Gautam, you have asked me the question, who is the founder of Indian Muslim League? It is Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka and Aga Khan. Okay. Now, if Swadeshi movement was quite successful, then what were the reasons for its failure? Government adopted a very brutal policy of suppression, and each and every section, rather it be women, rather it be children, rather it be students, rather it be nationalists of any rank, Britishers followed a very brutal policy of suppression. Okay. Now, there was no proper effective organization or party structure. The movement was moving in a very haphazard manner. And secondly, the ideological differences within the Congress proved to be quite fatal to the Swadeshi movement. Like just while I have said, moderates had a very different working pattern, extremists had a very different working pattern. So these ideological differences proved to be very fatal for the entire movement. That is why it is said that although to an extent the movement played a very major role in sensitizing the masses, to an extent there was revival of indigenous industries, to an extent people developed the patriotism to fight for their own rights, but still the movement was not that successful. As I have told you, after the split in the Congress, now there were many leaders like Aurobindo Ghosh and Bipin Chandra Pal retired from active politics. Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, he was sent to Mandalay jail for 6 years. Okay, Lala Lajpat Rai ji, that is Sher-e-Punjab, he was sent to he moved to England. So the entire movement was rendered leaderless. There was no major leader to provide leadership base to the movement. Okay. Movement covered student section, zamindar section, middle class, but women section, but industrialists in the region of Gujarat and peasants hardly participated in the movement. So still there was little participation of different sections in the movement. This is all about Swadeshi movement. Did you understand the points, my friends? Please let me know. Yes, guys, did you understand the points? Okay. Now let's talk about the non-cooperation movement. The non-cooperation movement was led by M.K. Gandhi. Now before I start speaking about the non-cooperation movement, let me give you a brief background about M.K. Gandhi. Okay, and how M.K. Gandhi played a very major role in various movements like Ahmedabad Meal Strike, Champaran Satyagraha, non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and Quit India movement. Okay, pay attention properly. M.K. Gandhi's name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He was born at a place called as Porbandar in Gujarat on 2nd October 1869. Now, he was married at a very early age, and to complete his degree in law, he went to London. Now, when he went to London, he was introduced to Bhagavad Gita for the first time in London. Okay, he was introduced to Bhagavad Gita for the first time in London. Now, after completing his degree of law, he had two options. First, either to get himself registered in the Bar Council at London and practice as a lawyer there, or he had the second major option now to work as a legal advisor for a company of Dada Abdullah or Sheikh Abdullah in South Africa. He chose the second option for working in the company as a legal advisor for Dada Abdullah or Sheikh Abdullah. And now he started working he went to South Africa. He was given the first class railway compartment ticket, but he was thrown out of the first class railway compartment at Pietermaritzburg station. Now, when he went to meet Dada Abdullah, he asked him one question: is this it happened to me, or is the condition same for all the Asians and Indians? Then he came to know that there are three types of Asians and Indians living in South Africa: indentured laborer, ex-indentured laborers, and Memon Muslim. What is indentured laborer? The laborers who are brought on contract basis from countries in Asia and specifically in India, and they are working at the plantations field in South Africa. Once their contract is over, they'll go back to their own country. Second are ex-indentured laborers. Now, there was a question in past year prelims. Second are ex-indentured laborer. They have come and working as a contractor, as a laborer in the fields, and once their contract is over, they are not going back to their own country. Why? Because they believe that we are going to be exploited in our own nation. We will exploited be here, but at least we have employment opportunities here. So these are ex-indentured laborer. And second are Memon Muslim who are involved in the business. The condition of indentured and ex-indentured laborers was quite worst. They cannot come out of the homes after 7 or 8 o'clock. They cannot use public footpath. Even if they have to bring a bread from the nearby grocery shop, they had to carry a passport size document. And now M.K. Gandhi decided to work for the cause of these people in South Africa. And for the first time, M.K. Gandhi coined the term Satyagraha in South Africa. Okay, so he was introduced to Bhagavad Gita in London and he coined the term Satyagraha in South Africa. Moving further, he decided to work for their cause. He also established Tolstoy Farm. Now, Tolstoy Farm was actually being established by Herman Kallenbach. I repeat, the Tolstoy Farm was majorly being established by Herman Kallenbach, but the major support was being given by M.K. Gandhi. Now, he became quite successful because of his South African experiment. Now, it is said that he also started a newspaper, Indian Opinion, to sensitize the masses in the region of South Africa. Okay, now he came in India. Now, when he came in India, initially for 1.5 years, he did not participate in any political activities in India. This was suggested to him by his political guru, by his political mentor, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. And for the first time, what happened? For the first time, he came up with what? Experimented with Champaran Satyagraha. I'll give you an example of Champaran Satyagraha, guys. Champaran is a place in the Bihar, in the northern region of Bihar. Okay, here the peasants were forced to cultivate indigo under Teen Kathya system. That is, under 3/20th part of the land, compulsorily they had to cultivate indigo. Okay, now there was a local peasant named as Rajkumar Shukla. He invited M.K. Gandhi to work or to showcase the plight of the peasant. Now, M.K. Gandhi came along with Dr. Rajendra Prasad, J.B. Kriplani, Mahadev Desai to Champaran. And later on, Champaran Agrarian Committee was created, and M.K. Gandhi himself was a member of the committee, and Teen Kathya system was abolished. Now, after that, the major movement which M.K. Gandhi represented was Non-Cooperation Movement. Now, before launching the Non-Cooperation Movement, M.K. Gandhi had put forward certain demands before the Britishers. And what are these demands? Let us understand this. Annulment of Rowlatt Act. Yes, guys, did you get the background still here? Please let me know. Yes, guys. Did you get the background till here? Okay. Annulment of Rowlatt Act. Rowlatt Act is also called as Revolutionary and Anarchical Crime Act. Now, why it is called as Rowlatt Act? Because it was framed by Sir Sidney Rowlatt. That is why it is referred as Rowlatt Act. Now, as per this act, just on the basis of suspicion, I repeat, just on the basis of suspicion, Britishers can arrest anyone. And after arresting them, okay, they will be put behind the bars and they will not be produced before the magistrate for 2 years. Okay, like it is said that if anyone is arrested on the basis of suspicion, he needs to be produced in front of a magistrate within the 24 hours. But here, such a person could be kept behind the bars for 2 years. This is violation of the writ of habeas corpus. Isn't that so? So against this, M.K. Gandhi came up with what we say nationwide hartal. He said that a nationwide hartal should be launched against this Revolutionary Crime Act. It is also referred as Black Act. Now, there was a nationwide hartal that was launched. And in the region of Punjab, there were 2 leaders who were supporting the nationwide hartal. The 2 leaders were Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo. Now, these 2 leaders were being arrested. Now the people in the region of Amritsar, Punjab, they gathered at a place called as Jallianwala Bagh. Now, it is called as Jallianwala Bagh because it was constructed by Pandit Jalla, who was one of the courtiers of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So now, approximately around 15 to 16,000 people gathered in Jallianwala Bagh. Now, why these people had gathered? These people had gathered to peacefully protest against the arrest of their leaders, Dr. Satyapal and Dr. Saifuddin Kichlo. My friends, I have used the word peaceful protest, but these innocent people hardly had the knowledge that there was martial law that was imposed in the region of Punjab. And under martial law, more than 4 people cannot gather at a particular place without any inquiry, without any proceeding, and without any proper investigation. General Dyer encircled the entire Jallianwala Bagh. And the Jallianwala Bagh had a very narrow entry gate and a narrow exit gate. Hardly 2 people can enter at a time and 2 people can exit at a time. Without proper inquiry, General Dyer opened a fire on the unarmed crowd. The firing continued for 15 to 17 minutes till the ammunition was completely over. Approximately 15 to 20,000 people were caught under the hails of bullets. Now, as per official records, 376 people were killed in Jallianwala Bagh massacre. As per official records, unofficially, thousands of people were killed in Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Thousands. This brutal act, M.K. Gandhi immediately withdrew the nationwide hartal. He gave his Kesari-Hind Gold Medal, which he had received for his service in South Africa. Rabindranath Tagore renounced his knighthood against this inhuman act of what we say, Britishers. And M.K. Gandhi said, Britishers have lost the moral responsibility to govern this country. Now here it is believed that a committee was created which is called as Disorders Inquiry Committee or Hunter Committee, which comprised of 7 members, out of which 4 were Britishers and 3 were Indian members. So basically one of the demands before launching the non-cooperation movement was that Britishers should show regret for what had happened in Punjab. And the third thing here is Khilafat movement or Khilafat wrong. During the World War I, Britishers were opposed to Turkey. Britain was on one side and the Turkey was on other side. Now, Turkey lost the battle and harsh terms and conditions were imposed upon the Turkey under Treaty of Severus. I repeat, Treaty of Severus. Now it is said that the ruler of Turkey was also regarded as the Caliph. And Caliph is the religious head of all the Sunni Muslims in the world. And whatever Caliph said, it was followed by all the Muslims all over the world here. Now, Britishers removed the position of Caliph. Okay, and they tried to establish a democratic government here. This hurted the sentiments of Muslims all over the world and specifically the Muslims in India. And now there was a movement against this act of the Britishers which is called as Khilafat movement. So before launching the non-cooperation movement, there was one demand. And what was that? Remedifying the Khilafat wrong. And Home Rule League movement, which was started by Tilak and Annie Besant, it set the stage for non-cooperation movement. Now listen to me very, very carefully. As I have told you, there was split in the Indian National Congress in 1907 and the entire Swadeshi movement got fizzled out around 1908. From 1908 to 1914, there was a complete political vacuum in the country. Okay, there was a complete political vacuum in the country. And now Annie Besant, she decided to regenerate the lost enthusiasm and the patriotic zeal among the people of India. Because the people of India had accepted slavery as a part of their life. But Annie Besant played a very pioneering role by setting up Home Rule League. And there were 2 leagues that were started. One league was started by Bal Gangadhar Tilak in April 1916. And second league was started by Annie Besant, which was started in September 1916. And the league played a very major role for reuniting the Congress. The Congress, which was split in 1907 at Surat session, was again reunited in 1916 at Lucknow session, which was presided by Ambika Charan Muzumdar. So now it is believed that basically this created a stage for non-cooperation movement, because both extremists and moderates came to know that until and unless we keep our differences aside, we cannot expect to free our nation from the Britishers. So we need to keep our differences completely aside if we have to work for the cause of the nation. So this created a base for the non-cooperation movement. Now, in 1920, a special session was held at Allahabad of Indian National Congress, and here Britishers refused to accept any of the demands of the Indian National Congress. They did not accept any single demand of the Indian National Congress. Again in 1920, a second session was held at Calcutta. The first session was held at Allahabad, where Britishers completely refused to negotiate with the Indians and deal with any of the demands of the Indian. Second session was again held in 1920 at Calcutta. Here also they gave, now here in the Calcutta session it was decided that we will give a second chance to the Britishers. But even though second chance was given to the Britishers refused to accept any demand. And now in the Calcutta session of 1920, it was decided to start the non-cooperation movement. It was not started. It was decided that we are going to start the non-cooperation movement. And finally, in 1920 session, which was held at Nagpur and which was presided by Vijay Raghvacharya, here basically non-cooperation movement was launched, and the leader of the non-cooperation movement was decided was M.K. Gandhi. Did you get the points completely clear till here? Are the concepts clear, guys? Please let me know. Yes, please. Yes. Now, let us understand what are the important changes that were made in the Congress right now, so that the Congress could work in a very systematic format, in a very hierarchical format, in a very organized manner. Okay, listen to me very carefully now. In 1907, there was a split in the Congress. And what was the major reason for the split? Do you know? I'll give you a small example. The session of the Indian National Congress was being attended by approximately around 1500 delegates, more than 1500 delegates in 1907. And Firoz Shah Mehta, who is referred as Lion of Bombay, he stood up to address the session. Some unidentified person hurdled the shoe on Lion of Bombay, that is Firoz Shah Mehta. Later on, a second person like Surendranath Banerjee, who was quite elder personality, and he was a very veteran leader of the Indian National Congress, some unidentified person again hurdled a shoe there. So the entire hall became a battleground for the moderates and the extremists. So here Congress decided to work in a very methodological manner, in a very systematic manner, and now Congress Working Committee of 15 members was created. Now these 15 members are responsible for giving a proper direction to the movement. And Congress Working Committee at the central level, then there was Provincial Congress Committee in the various provinces, then there was Ward Committee, then there were committees established at the local level, at the grassroots level, and the committees were interconnected to each other, and the decisions flowed from the top to bottom approach. So why Provincial Congress Committee was created? Because in the provincial level, vernacular language was much in vogue, and the leaders from the provinces can sensitize the masses in the vernacular language, so that the movement will gain more momentum. So Congress Working Committee, Provincial Congress Committee, Ward or Taluka Committee, and at the village level, so that the movement could reach out to the grassroots level. and the number of delegates were completely fixed. It was fixed on the basis of the population. There was no extra members in the Indian National Congress meetings. At this time, there were many revolutionary groups that have cropped up, and there were many revolutionary leaders also that had cropped up, like Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Durga Bhabi, Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan. Okay, and these leaders were involved in revolutionary activities. Now, I'll give you an example. Now, why revolutionary activities had cropped up? Because the revolutionaries believed that both moderates and extremists had failed to gain anything prominent for the nation. And Britishers are always following a brutal policy of suppression. And now they believed in a very simple policy, and that was eye for an eye policy. If Britishers are brutally suppressing us, we are going to assassinate unpopular officials. Okay? But now, with the arrival of M.K. Gandhi, all the revolutionaries gave up their secret activities and they decided to support the non-cooperation movement spearheaded by M.K. Gandhi. Okay? Now, various leaders like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Annie Besant, G.S. Kharpade, then Bipin Chandrapal, they left the Congress and they founded Indian National Liberation Federation because they did not support the activities which were followed here. Okay. Similarly, like the Swadeshi movement, here also there are what we say negative and positive program. Now, what is negative and positive program? Let us understand this. Negative program, surrender of title and honorary positions. I have just given an example. Immediately post Jallianwala Bagh massacre, M.K. Gandhi gave up his Kaisar-e-Hind gold medal, which he had got for his exemplary service in South Africa. Rabindranath Tagore renounced his knighthood. So it was decided that all the people, okay, are going to resign their honorary positions and the titles given to them by the government. Then, resignation from the nominated seat. I'll give you a small example. As per Indian Council Act 1909, which is also referred as Morley-Minto reforms, Imperial Legislative Council had 60 seats. I repeat, 60 seats. Out of 60, 27 were elected and 33 were nominated. Who are the people who are going to nominate these seats? Britishers are going to nominate the people. Okay, and majorly there were Englishmen, but there were few Indians also into the nominated seats. Now it was an appeal to the legislatures who are elected on the nominated seats that they should resign from the nominated seat and work for the cause of the nation and become a part of the non-cooperation movement. Okay, now boycott of government schools, semi-government schools and colleges, courts, etc. This practice was also followed during the Swadeshi movement. Now, Government of India Act 1919 was passed by now. And Government of India Act 1919 is also called as Montego-Chelmsford Reforms. It is called as Montego-Chelmsford Reforms because Montego was Secretary of State for India and Chelmsford was Viceroy of India. That is why it is referred as Montego-Chelmsford Reform. And on the recommendations of Montego-Chelmsford reforms, elections were going to be held now. It was an appeal by the nationalists that everyone should boycott the elections. Okay? Complete boycott of foreign goods. If there is a complete boycott of foreign goods, what will happen? There will be revival of indigenous industries. Isn't that so? We have seen this thing in the Swadeshi movement. Then, refusal to attend any government or semi-government functions. Positive program. If there is boycott of government schools and colleges, obviously there will be establishment of national schools and colleges. If there are boycott of law courts, so how will the justice be dispensed? The justice at the grassroots level will be dispensed by the panchayat system. So the panchayat system gained prominence during the non-cooperation movement. And here again during the non-cooperation movement, there was popularization of Swadeshi and Khadi. Khadi became the moving spirit during the entire non-cooperation movement, and it became the symbol for Hindu-Muslim unity. Okay. Now, one of the major prospects of non-cooperation movement was also removal of untouchability, and M.K. Gandhi himself popularized Charkha, Swadeshi and Khadi. Are the points clear till here, guys? Please let me know. Yes, guys, are the points clear? Yes, guys. Okay. Now let's talk about spread of the movement. How the movement spread to the different parts of the country. Now, M.K. Gandhi personally led the movement, and to sensitize the masses, he, along with Ali brothers, okay, he toured the entire nation, okay, and now it is believed that approximately around 90,000 students left the government schools and colleges and joined national schools and colleges, which had cropped up by now. There were mushrooming of many national schools and colleges like Jamia Millia Islamia, then Bihar Vidyapeeth, and so on. Many national leaders started their own school of education like Zakir Hussain, Lala Lajpat Rai, Subhash Chandra Bose, C.R. Das. Many eminent lawyers gave up their practice because one of the positive programs says what? Giving up of practices in the law courts. So many eminent lawyers like Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru, T. Prakasam, Rajendra Prasad, Saifuddin Kichlo, Vallabhbhai Patel gave up the practice. Okay, heaps of foreign clothes were brought on the street and they were burned. And as I have told you previously, burning of foreign clothes is a symbol of peaceful protest. I repeat, it is a symbol of peaceful protest. There was a sect of Bihar which is called as Tana Bhagat sect. They completely gave up consuming liquor. In fact, they started peaceful picketing in front of the liquor shop. Okay, and now in the region of Assam, there was a strike that was observed by the railway workers, and the strike was majorly for the support of non-cooperation movement. The movement spread to the different parts of the country, but the movement was not that successful in the region of Bombay. Now, at this time, the agenda of Indian National Congress was to collect more amount of fund, because to run a movement, funds are required, and until and unless there are proper funds, it is highly impossible to run the movement. Okay, so it was decided that a lot of funds needs to be collected so that the movement could be sustained, and the movement at this time was not successful, or it did not spread majorly to the region of Bombay. Why? Because the entire Bombay was mourning the death of one of the most prominent leaders of the Indian National Congress. That is Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji. By now, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji was no more. And that is why the movement did not spread majorly in the Bombay presidency. And in the name of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Tilak Swaraj Fund was established to sustain the non-cooperation movement. Just in the name of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, approximately around 1 crore rupees was collected within a span of 6 months to sustain the movement. From the entire India, 60 to 70 lakh rupees were collected, and just from the Bombay presidency, in the name of Tiger of Bombay, that is Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, just within 6 months, 1 crore rupees were collected. It is believed that women gave up their jewelry. Okay, whatever people had, they just gave it just in the name of Tilak. Okay, and there were many local movements also that cropped up during this time. Eka movement, Awadh movement, Mopla rebellion, and so on. Okay, Now, there was breaking of forest law in the region of Andhra Pradesh. People also started no tax campaign. Now, Britishers forcefully collected the taxes from the people. And here, no tax campaign, like if there are flood and famine in a particular region, how are the people going to pay the taxes to the government? So here, no tax campaign was launched during the non-cooperation movement. Secondly, Prince of Wales came in India in 1921, and Prince of Wales was greeted with black flag throughout India, and a nationwide hartal was launched against the arrival of Prince of Wales in India. Okay, so this is majorly about the course of the movement. Now, what is the last phase of the movement? Let us understand. The movement became quite successful, and now there was a strong demand to convert the non-cooperation movement into civil disobedience movement. And there was a strong demand from each and every section of the Indian nationalist. Okay, and now Gandhi was under immense pressure. Should I launch the civil disobedience movement or not? Now, there was a session at Ahmedabad in 1921. Now, previously it was decided that the session would be presided by C.R. Das. But C.R. Das was now in jail, and the acting president was Hakim Ajmal Khan. So finally it was decided that Gandhi was given the sole authority, that if you decide that non-cooperation movement should continue, so we will continue with the non-cooperation movement. But if you decide with converting the non-cooperation movement into civil disobedience movement, we are also supporting that as well. So before launching the civil disobedience movement, M.K. Gandhi on 1st February 1922 gave two ultimatums to the Britishers, and he said that if these two ultimatums are not fulfilled, I will be hell-bent, I will be forced to start or launch the civil disobedience movement. And what were these demands? Political prisoners. Okay. First of all, political prisoners should be released, and second, press control should be removed. Because these political protesters are protesting in the peaceful manner. And one more thing, guys, please remember, the entire non-cooperation movement was based on twin pillars. And these twin pillars are Satya, that is truth, and Ahimsa, that is non-violence. So the entire movement was sustained on these two pillars. So the prisoners who are not guilty of violence should be immediately released by the Britishers. And press control should be compulsorily removed, because press is acting as a medium of, or it is acting as a channel of communication between the Britishers and the people. And it is also playing a major role. Liberty of thought, expression, faith, belief, freedom to express oneself. It is one's individual, what we say, right. And Britishers do not have the right to suppress these, what we say, rights of the people. So press control should be removed. But meanwhile, there was one incident which completely shook the entire nation again. And that is Chauri Chaura incident. Chauri Chaura is a small village in Gorakhpur district of UP. And people were peacefully protesting for rise in food prices, or people were peacefully protesting in front of a liquor shop. Now heaps of foreign clothes were brought on the street and they were burnt. So there was a peaceful protest. Now Britishers came here and they start beating the peaceful protester. They start a brutal suppression policy on these peaceful protesters. Now these peaceful protesters got very angry and they put 22 policemen into the police station, and the entire police station was torched. The entire police station was burnt, and approximately around 22 policemen were burnt in the incident, and they died. It is said that few policemen were coming out of the police station. Okay, these policemen were again thrown back into the police station. Okay, and now when M.K. Gandhi heard about this, immediately the entire non-cooperation movement was withdrawn, because M.K. Gandhi believed that the entire movement has been sustained only on two principles. that is Satya and Ahimsa, truth and non-violence. Okay, now there were leaders like Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das. They were quite opposed to this move that was adopted by M.K. Gandhi. Like it is approximately around 3 years where non-cooperation movement had been sustained in a very systematic manner. And just because of sporadic incidents of violence, the entire movement was withdrawn. That is why there were few leaders who were completely opposed to this policy of M.K. Gandhi. Because they believed that when the movement was going on throughout the nation, Britishers had followed a very brutal policy of suppression against the Indian. At that time, the movement was not withdrawn. And now 22 policemen were burned, and because of the sporadic incidents of violence, the entire movement, which has been sustained for 3 years, have been withdrawn. So Motilal Nehru and C.R. Das were opposed to it, and later on they parted away from the Congress and they formed their own party, Congress Khilafat Swarajya Party or Swarajya Party. Okay, now what happened further? Situation was deteriorating day by day, and at that time the Viceroy of India was Lord Reading. Now Madan Mohan Malviya and Muhammad Ali Jinnah, they approached Viceroy Lord Reading to ask to find out a solution for this deteriorating situation. Now Viceroy agreed for a round table conference, but Gandhi demanded that all the political prisoners should be released. But Britishers did not accept any of the demands of M.K. Gandhi, and now, like the same, Britishers came up heavily on the volunteer corps. There was a brutal policy of suppression that was adopted by the Britishers. Public meetings were banned. Volunteer corps were declared completely illegal. Like the jail became the, what we say, rest houses for the nationalists. Like going to jail became badge of honor, and M.K. Gandhi was arrested in 1922 and sentenced for 6 years jail. Okay, now why did M.K. Gandhi withdraw the movement? As I have told you previously, the entire movement as per M.K. Gandhi was based on twin pillars, that is Satya and Ahimsa, truth and non-violence. And as per M.K. Gandhi, people of India by now have not learned the practice of non-violence. Now why the movement was initiated? I have talked about 3 major things. Rowlatt Act. Second was Britishers should show regret for the Rowlatt Act or an element of Rowlatt Act. Britishers should show regret for what has happened in the Punjab, very specifically Jallianwala Bagh. And third, withdrawal of the Khilafat movement. But the entire Khilafat issue had dissipated by now. A democratic government had been established in the region of, what we say, Turkey. So the central theme of the movement had completely vanquished. It had completely vanished. So now, what we say, M.K. Gandhi decided to withdraw the movement. Okay, so this was majorly why M.K. Gandhi decided to withdraw the movement. So this is all about non-cooperation movement. Did you understand the points? Please let me know. Yes, guys. Did you understand the points? Are the concepts clear? Okay. Now let's talk about the Civil Disobedience Movement. Okay. Which was started in 1930. Now before launching the Civil Disobedience Movement, M.K. Gandhi gave 11-point ultimatum to the Britishers. Okay. Now if like 11-point ultimatums are like, if these 11 demands are not accepted, we would be hell-bent to start the Civil Disobedience Movement. This ultimatum was given by M.K. Gandhi. Okay, now There were certain general demands. What are those? 50% reduction in military expenditure. I'll give you a small example. Indians are not following, we as a country, we as a nation are not following any brutal policy of imperialism. We do not want to exploit and colonize any other nation. Britishers are following a ruthless policy of imperialism, and in the name of colonialism, continuously they are waging war at different places in the world. And for that, they are spending more amount of money on military. Okay? Now, where will the money come from? That money will come from India. Who are going to pay for that? Indians are going to pay for that. And in that case, that money could have been utilized for welfare in India. India was plagued by poverty, malnutrition, lack of education. Famines and floods had struck India continuously. So rather than spending that money on buying weapons and continuously expanding one's territories, here we need to have a what we say welfaristic approach. So there should be 50% reduction in military expenditure. Second, 50% reduction on civil administration. I'll give you a small example. As I have told you previously, the civil servants were recruited at Hailbury College in London, and they were trained in Hailbury College in London, and later on they were trained at Fort William College in India, specifically at Calcutta. Okay, now just on the training, perks, privileges, allowances, pensions, lot of money is wasted. That again could be utilized for the welfare of the people. So there should be 50% reduction in the civil administration as well. There should be complete ban on intoxicants. Then release of all political prisoners. Like as I have told you previously, the movements that were initiated by M.K. Gandhi previously were completely based upon twin pillars, that is Satya and Ahimsa. And the movement was majorly sustained in a non-violent manner. So M.K. Gandhi demanded that all the political prisoners who are not guilty of violence should be released. Now, there should be reforms in the intelligence department. Like I have given you a small example about the Rowlatt Act. As per the Rowlatt Act, any person could be arrested just on the basis of suspicion, and that person would be kept in remand for around 2 years. This is violation of habeas corpus of that person. So here there should be proper reforms in the intelligence department. And sixth is change in the Arms Act. As per Arms Act, only Britishers have the right to bear arms. And what reason did they cite for bearing arms? They have a threat from the revolutionaries in the India. If you are having threat from revolutionaries in India, similarly, we Indians are having threat from the Britishers. Isn't that so? So either everyone is same in the eye of law, and the law should be same for everyone. So there should be complete change in the Arms Act. Okay, bourgeois demand, changes in rupee sterling ratio, protection of indigenous textile industry, and reserving coastal shipping for Indians. Now what is this? I've talked about I've talked about indigenous textile industry. I'll talk about reserving coastal shipping for Indians. Now, if any goods are exported out of India, a law was made in such a manner that these goods could only be exported through British ships. And if any goods are imported in India, again these goods could only be imported through British ships. So isn't this a derogatory law? So the major thing here is reserve the coastal shipping for Indians. It means that Indians should be allowed basically to have their own shipping industry. Reduce the land revenue by 50%. I'll give you a small example. There were 3 types of land revenue settlement: Zamindari, Rayatwari and Mahalwari. Zamindari system. Zamindari system was also called as permanent settlement. Why it was called as permanent settlement? Because the taxes would be fixed for next 10 years. For example, if I'm a peasant, if I have earned rupees 100 and I have to pay rupees 70 as a tax every year. Next year, I have earned rupees 300, but still I have to pay 70 rupees as a tax. Next to next year, I have only earned rupees 50, but still I have to pay 70 rupees as a tax. So tax was fixed under Zamindari system. That is why it was referred as permanent settlement. Now, why it is called as Zamindari system? Because under the system, Britishers directly did not collect the revenue from the peasant. Britishers collected the revenue from Zamindar. So in very simple language, very simple words, Zamindar acted as a middleman between Britishers on one hand and the peasants on the other hand. 89% of the revenue went to the Britishers and 11% was kept by the Zamindar. Second was Rayatwari system. Under Rayatwari system, Britishers directly collected the revenue from the peasant and the role of Zamindar was ended. And third was Mahalwari system. Under this system, Britishers collected the revenue from the entire Mahal, entire unit, entire village. That is Mahalwari system. Still the land revenue was very, very high. And now the demand here was reduction of land revenue by 50%. Okay, and complete abolition of salt tax and government salt monopoly. The people who are living in the coast, salt is one of the most important necessities of life. There are very few dishes which can be cooked without salt, except the sweet dish guys. Isn't that so? So basically, salt should be completely free of cost. And if it is not free of cost, then there should be no additional levy of taxes on the salt. But government is levying a lot of taxes on the salt as well. So these were the demands that were being put forward, which are referred as 11-point ultimatum before launching the Civil Disobedience Movement. Are the points clear, guys? Please let me know. Okay, now let's speak about Dandi March. Britishers hardly paid any attention. They hardly paid any heed to the demands of the Indian National Congress. And now, with no proper response from the government, without any positive response from the government, Congress now decided to launch the Salt March or a Dandi March. And now Gandhi was made again the leader of Civil Disobedience Movement. Now, according to Gandhi, as per Gandhi, after air and water, salt is one of the most important necessities of life. And initially, in 1882, Britishers had passed one act, and as per this act, government had the monopoly to manufacture the salt, and government had the authority to tax that. Now, salt is a commodity which should be completely free of cost, but this was not done. On 12th March 1930, M.K. Gandhi decided to start the famous Dandi March. And he started the famous Dandi March from Sabarmati Ashram. And before starting the Dandi March, he took a vow. And he took a vow that until and unless I gain independence for India this time, I won't be coming back to Sabarmati Ashram. And along with 80 Satyagrahis, he started the famous Dandi March on foot. On the first day, he covered 21 kilometers and he reached a village in Gujarat called as Aslali. At a village in Gujarat, he addressed a crowd of 4,000 people. And these people were heavily sensitized. They were highly sensitized by the speech of M.K. Gandhi. Historian says that on the first day he covered 21 kilometers. Later on he kept on covering many kilometers. And from the places where he went, he was joined by many villagers. Many villagers joined the protest. They joined the movement. And now it is said that, historian says that the women were wearing white sari and men were wearing white dhoti and kurta. It seems like a white river is flowing. And finally, on 6th April, that is 1930, MK Gandhi reached Dandi. He picked up the salt and he said, "With this I shake the foundations of British Empire in India." And now he launched the Civil Disobedience Movement. Now before launching the Dandi March, he had given the instructions to the people. Wherever possible, Civil Disobedience Movement should be launched. And all the national leaders should participate in the movement. Lawyers like the Non-Cooperation Movement should give up the practice. Government servants should resign from their post. There should be picketing of foreign clothes, foreign liquor shops, and so on. And if the taxes are more, or if there are illegal taxes that are what we say imposed upon the people by the government, refuse to pay the taxes as well. And again this time as well, this point was highlighted. The movement again should be completely based on truth and non-violence, Satya and Ahimsa. Are the points clear till here, guys? Okay. Now there were various leaders who participated in the Civil Disobedience Movement. Like in Gujarat, 300 officials resigned from Gandhi's appeal. Tamil Nadu, C. Rajgopalachari, and in Kerala, K. Kelappan led the salt march. In Assam, Satyagrahis moved from the region of Bengal to break the salt law. In Andhra Pradesh, lot many camps were organized, lot many shibirams were organized, and these camps played a very major role in sensitizing the masses. Okay, Nehru was also arrested for defiance of forest law. Okay, and now it was decided that MK Gandhi is going to conduct a raid on Darsana salt mill. And now Britishers came to know about this raid. Immediately, MK Gandhi was arrested. And the arrest of MK Gandhi was followed by violent protest. Not violent, it was followed by a protest throughout India. Like, basically, immediately after the arrest, it was decided that non-payment of what we say taxes, then non-payment of Chowkidari tax. What is Chowkidari tax? Like villagers, for protection of the villagers, Chowkidar were appointed. And for that, the peasants had to pay Chowkidari tax. Okay. So it is nothing but against a exploitative policy of the Britishers. So there should be complete abolition of Chowkidari tax. Then there was complete violation of forest laws in the central provinces, Andhra Pradesh, in the region of Chota Nagpur Plateau, and so on. And the movement spread to the different parts of the country. Now, Khudai Khidmatgar, who are also called as Red Shirts, now they led the movement in the region of northwest India. And the person who was leading the movement was Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan. He is also referred as Frontier Gandhi. Now it is believed that to suppress the movement, Gadwal rifles was called in, and the British officers asked the Gadwal rifles to shoot on the compatriots, but Gadwal rifles refused to shoot on the compatriots. The arrest of MK Gandhi, there was establishment of virtual parallel government throughout the country. Okay, and later on it is said that in the region of Solapur, which is in Maharashtra, there were protests of the industrial workers as well. And similarly, Britishers followed a very brutal policy of suppression against the people here. Okay? In Assam, Cunningham Circular was circulated. What is Cunningham Circular? As per this, if any student was found participating in the agitation of the movement, his scholarship would be cancelled. He would be put behind the bars. Okay, so it was an instruction given to the parents or the guardians basically that if any students are actively participating in the movement, we would be hell-bent to crush that movement. Okay, then no rent union were organized. Zamindars also participated. Now it is said that if Zamindar were pro-government, then do not pay the rent. But if the Zamindar are anti-government, then pay mutually agreed rent. What is mutually agreed rent? It should be feasible for the peasant as well as for the Zamindar. Only when Zamindar is pro-peasant, not pro-government. Okay. Now, in Manipur and Nagaland, Rani Gaidunliu, at the very young age of 13, she led the banner of the movement against the foreign rule. Okay. And she was captured in 1932 and imprisoned and she was given lifetime imprisonment. Now, Raja of Alwar, he supported the Britishers in the movement. And against the Raja, there was an uprising in the region of Alwar, that is Rajasthan. That is Mew uprising. There was mass mobilization of the masses. Prabhat Feris were organized, Vanar Sena were organized, and basically people were sensitized here. Now, what happened here? What happened further? Their imports of foreign clothes fell by leaps and bounds. Government's income from excise, that is by sale of liquor, completely declined. Because right now in the start itself, I have told you about the 11 demands, complete ban on intoxicants. And elections as per Government of India Act 1919 were completely boycotted. Exemplary courage was shown by the women of India by participating in the movement. Like women picketed liquor shop, opium dens, then shops selling foreign cloth and liquor. Then students also participated in the movement. There was boycott of foreign cloth and liquor. Now one more thing here. Muslim participation was comparatively lower in comparison to the non-cooperation movement. Why? Because there was dissension among the Muslim League at that time. Because prior to this, there was arrival of Simon Commission in India. Each and every section of the Indian society boycotted Simon Commission, except certain part of the Muslim League. Like Muhammad Ali Jinnah's section of Muslim League boycotted Simon Commission. But Muhammad Safi's section of Muslim League did not boycott the Simon Commission. So Muslim League, to an extent, the participation was less. Merchants in the region of Tamil Nadu and Punjab participated in the movement. Tribals of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra and central provinces participated in the movement. Peasants were active in Gujarat, UP and Bihar. And as usual, what was the policy that was adopted by the Britishers? Brutal policy was adopted by the Britishers here for suppression. And now what happened at this point of time? From 1930 to 1932, series of roundtable conferences had started in London. And now Britishers wanted Indians to participate in the roundtable conference so that the entire thing could be negotiated. The first roundtable conference was attended by all the leaders except Congress. Muslim League, B.R. Ambedkar, Unionist in Punjab and many others participated in the first roundtable conference except Congress. Now, basically, there was a pact which was signed, which is referred as Gandhi-Irwin Pact. And as per this pact, M.K. Gandhi decided to participate in the second roundtable conference and represent the Congress if certain demands are accepted. And these demands are like, basically, if there were fines that were imposed on Satyagrahis, and if these fines are not collected, they should be given back to the Satyagrahis. The properties of the Satyagrahis which were confiscated, they should be given back to the Satyagrahi. Satyagrahi who are not involved in any act of violence, such Satyagrahis should be released. There should be peaceful picketing of liquor shop should be allowed. So all these demands put forward by M.K. Gandhi was accepted by Lord Irwin, who was the Viceroy at that time. Okay. Now, but few demands were rejected, like conversion of death sentence of Bhagat Singh ji into life imprisonment. This was not accepted. Okay, and two demands were rejected: commutation of death sentence of Bhagat Singh and public inquiry of police excess. M.K. Gandhi had said that whatever excess that police has done, whatever brutal policy of suppression that Britishers have adopted during the civil disobedience movement, there should be a proper inquiry on that. But this was completely rejected. Okay. Now M.K. Gandhi represented Congress in the second roundtable conference. But it is believed that M.K. Gandhi had to come back India empty-handed. because none of the demands of MK Gandhi was accepted. Got the points clear, my friends? None of the demands were accepted. And now MK Gandhi came back again and he relaunched the civil disobedience movement. And after that, what happened? Same thing. Britishers came up heavily on the protesters. Okay? So, comparison of civil disobedience movement and non-cooperation movement. Objective of civil disobedience movement was complete independence. Non-cooperation movement was remedifying the Punjab wrong, Khilafat wrong, Rowlatt Act. Okay? Now, Muslim participation in non-cooperation movement was more in comparison to the civil disobedience movement. Number of satyagrahis, those who participated in the civil disobedience movement, were 3 times higher than the non-cooperation movement in comparison to the non-cooperation movement. And Britishers adopted a very, very brutal policy of suppression during the non-cooperation movement. Sorry, during the civil disobedience movement. My friends, this is all about Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement and civil disobedience movement. Are the points clear? Did you get the points? Are the concepts clear? Okay guys, so hope so the session was informative, hope so the session was interesting and you liked the session. So I'll stop here for the day. See you guys tomorrow. So if you like my lectures, please do subscribe to Unacademy and use my code AKOUS to avail 10% benefit on your subscription. I repeat the code AKOUS